Is the United States Center for Disease Control an agency of the United States government, or is it a stooge for the World Health Organization? Hi, Larry Richardson here. We're going to take a quick look at the CDC's role and their actions so far as the coronavirus situation has manifested itself here in the United States. If we go back and look for when cases first started showing up here, we can look at the World Health Organization's situation reports. They issued their first situation report on the coronavirus on the 20th of January 2020. On that day, they reported 0 cases confirmed in the United States. 2 days later, on the 22nd of January, they issued their second situation report, and still 0 cases confirmed in the United States. Since the 22nd of January, the World Health Organization has been issuing a situation report every day, including weekends. On their third report on January the 23rd, they reported 1 confirmed case in the United States. It stayed at 1 until January the 25th. Their 5th report, they said that went up to 2 cases confirmed. And then on January the 26th, 2 cases again. On January the 27th, the number of cases raised to 5. And then that held for a few days, and on January the 31st, the number of cases confirmed in the United States went up to 6 cases. That was in their 11th situation report. It stayed at 6 for 1 day. On the 1st of February, it went to 7. On the 2nd of February, it went to 8. On the 3rd of February, it went to 11. Stayed that way until the 6th of February when it went up to 12. Stayed 12 for a few days, and on the 11th of February, the number increased to 13, stayed there for another day, and on the 13th, the number went up to 14, and then on the 14th of February, the number of confirmed cases went up to 15 cases in the United States. On the 17th, still 15, on the 20th, still 15, on the 21st, still 15, and then on the 22nd of February, the World Health Organization 33rd situation report indicated there were 35 cases confirmed in the United States. And that was yesterday. Today, the 23rd, is the day I'm making this video. Still 35 cases is what the World Health Organization reports in their 34th situation report. Now, these numbers are all fine and dandy except for one thing. Any of you that have a memory know that back about a week or so ago, maybe a little more, there were a bunch of people that got released from that ship over in Japan, and a plane load of folks were flown back to the United States, and it turns out 14 of those folks were found to be positive for the coronavirus, and they ended up in Omaha, Nebraska, in part of the University of Nebraska's medical complex. But here we have a little quandary, because that raised for at least close to a day, maybe a little under, maybe a little over at 24 hours, the number increased on most of the charts to 29 in the United States. Now that would make sense, because if there were 14 new cases that came over in the airplane and they were sent to Omaha, Nebraska, then 15 current cases at that time, add 14, you have 29 cases. But if you remember, just a day later, those 29 people disappeared off of the U.S. count, and I guess they were added back onto the other count in the world outside of China or somewhere. I really don't know for sure where they went. It was never explained where the accounting went. And then when you look and you go back and you Google and you try to research the number of patients that were admitted to the facility there in Omaha, Nebraska, part of the Nebraska Medical Center, you find numbers anywhere from 10 to 15, depending on which news source you research. So the numbers are not as crystal clear and as, what's the political word? Transparent. The numbers are not as transparent as they might be. But these World Health Organizations, it added 14 people, but all the way up on yesterday, the 22nd of January. And we know that all this mess with what happened there in Omaha was about a week ago. So it doesn't matter which numbers you're looking at. There is no way to ascertain with any degree of specificity that we have the right numbers to look at. Because if the various sources will get the numbers so far off base with each other and the timing of the numbers and everything don't jive, then folks, you can't trust the numbers. Which source would you trust? You don't know. Okay, so that's just a look at the overall numbers. And let's look for a minute at the Center for Disease Control's procedures that they've set up, the things that they have put into place to do their tracking and their numbering of this particular situation. And to do that, you go to the Center for Disease Control's website. And there you will be able to find virtually all the information that I'm going to present from this point forward. Now, on their website, the first thing we're going to look at on the CDC website is in their testing section. We're going to concentrate on the first paragraph of this section, and especially on two sentences in that first paragraph. About halfway down, you will read this sentence. It says, "This test is intended for use with upper and lower respiratory specimens collected from persons who meet CDC criteria for COVID-19 testing." We're going to look more at that criteria for testing in just a minute. The next sentence we're looking at is the very next sentence. It says, "CDC's test kit is intended for use by laboratories designated by CDC as qualified and, in the United States, certified under the Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments, CLIA, to perform high complexity tests." Okay, so we see here that the scope of the testing going on is very narrowed. It is exclusive, very exclusive and specific. And let's look for a minute about those meeting the criteria for COVID-19 testing. You can now see the flow chart that's on the CDC website. And you see from the flow chart, it says, "For the evaluation of patients who may be ill with or who may have been exposed to 2019 novel coronavirus. 1, identify if in the past 14 days since first onset of symptoms, a history of either travel to China or close contact with a person known to have 2019 nCoV illness. And 2, and the person has fever or symptoms of lower respiratory illness, e.g. cough or shortness of breath." So we see here that in order for testing to take place, they have to be first demonstrating symptoms. There has to be a reason to take a test. And then the person has to have either been to China or close contact with someone who is known to have the virus. That's pretty limited on who gets to be tested. It says if both exposure and illness are present, if both of these things are satisfied, then the testing takes place, and there's these procedures of isolation, place face mask on the patient, et cetera, et cetera. So what we see is that the CDC, by their procedures, has established that very few people get the test to confirm whether they have the COVID-19 or not. That's kind of bogus, isn't it? Is there any transparency in that? Is there any apparent attempt to see how many cases are occurring in the United States? No. There's an attempt to a very limited attempt to find out who has the COVID-19 virus amongst those who show symptoms and meet these other criteria about having been to China or close to somebody that's known to have the virus already. That doesn't make any sense if you're trying to find out how widespread this thing is and how potentially dangerous it is for spreading even further. CDC is totally off the mark in these procedures. Speaking of that, on the subject of testing, we find from the American Pharmaceutical Association that the CDC's test kits they sent out to these various labs, these test kits, guess what? Only 3 states got test kits that work. 47 of the United States received test kits that didn't work. They were faulty test kits. Way to go, CDC. Way to go. And how did you make this kind of stuff up? There was another report I saw, and the head of the CDC was answering the question of a reporter or in some kind of a statement that she made. I could not find this on their website, and for some reason I wasn't able to Google this, but I know I read a reputable document that verifies this, and that is that the CDC only reports its statistics 3 times a week, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Now there's a real setup for transparency. I am disgusted with the CDC and its director. I kind of suspect it may be a holdover from a previous administration. I don't know that. But I also have a question. And this, I believe, is a valid question. Whether you like Trump or not, this is a valid question. Does President Trump know about these procedures and what the CDC has set up for its policies? If he does know, when did he find out about it, and what has he done about it? I think those are 3 valid questions. Does he know? When did he find out if he does? And what has he done about it? I hope that we, the people, get to see the answers to these 3 questions. One thing that might speed those answers up, if you take this URL to this video, put it in an email to the White House, and ask somebody to get this video in front of somebody that can get to the ear of the president, maybe we can find out the answer to those 3 questions. Now, don't think I'm trying to do this to make money. None of my videos are monetized, so I don't make a penny out of it. However many people watch it or send it or whatever, I don't make a penny off of this. So do your duty as an American citizen. Get this video to the president so he can be asked and answer. Does he know? When did he find out if he does? And what has he done about it? I thank you guys for hanging in there and watching this video.